Hello, welcome to my studio. This is a new painting that I started today that is going to be of Joan of Arc, and sometimes I have these moments with the paintings when it's just the background and then the sketch that I don't want to, it's like I like it like that, and so I let it be in that form for a while before I move on. I wanted to talk about something today that it's a theme for me. It's something that I think about a lot, but it came up last night in my meditation, and I thought to myself, this feels really important for right now, for this moment in time. And it is the concept that there are many pathways to God, that the divine expresses itself in many different ways. I was listening last night to a podcast that is based around the writings of Rumi. And so you could say that it is a Sufi theology that's expressed in this podcast, which I am not Sufi, but I listen to this podcast and find it to be of great value, and it's beautiful to listen to. I think the Rumi's writings are beautiful, and I think the reason why so many of us respond to them and love those writings is because we recognize God. We recognize what is universally true. We, in the Western world at least, have seemed to have gone so far down this road of thinking dualistically, and of thinking that there's a right way and a wrong way, that I have to figure out the right way of anything and then reject the wrong way. And I think where we are right now, and what I feel we're being called into right now in this moment in time, is an expansion, is a heart expansion, a mind expansion, non-dual thinking, really seeing that many, many paths lead to the same source, to the same place, that God expresses God's self in many different ways. I could never commit to a religion that told me I was right and other people were wrong, or that damned other people. I could never be a part of a belief system that said that said, at the end of your life, there's a heaven and a hell, and you're going to be sorted out depending on if you did what God told you to do, and God told you to be this religion, and if you weren't this religion, then you failed. That's ridiculous to me. That makes no sense to me. That's never made any sense to me. And I want to be really clear, because I think a lot of people are surprised by this. I was never, ever taught that. I was never taught that theology. I grew up in the mainline church. I'm in the mainline church now. And that is not what I believe. I do believe that God speaks to us, and in different ways. And so God might speak to you in one way and speak to me in another way. And part of what we do here on earth is figure out, how is the divine speaking to me? How is God speaking to me? How am I in dialogue with God? And what do I know as a result? So for me, being a member of a church, being a part of a church community, being baptized into Christ, attempting to follow the ministry of Jesus, that is all what is important and true for me. That is where my heart is. I love my church, and I grow as a part of it. Before I went back to church, before I was called back into church, and I truly was called, like it was undeniable. It's like, this is what I had to do. Prior to that, I think I tended to surround myself with people who were pretty much exactly like me. Like, I found other people who believed like I believed and did what I did and thought what I thought, and we were all pretty much in spiritual agreement about what's the truth. And I guess it works for a certain phase in your life to do that. I mean, it can be good to do that for a while, but then you get to a point where you can't grow because you're just with people exactly like you. And what happened for me when I went into a church community was, oh, now I see, like, this gives me an opportunity to do the love thing with people who are not necessarily just like me. We don't all believe the same thing. We don't all interpret scripture the same way. But we're together in a community, and we are bound together, and we are loving one another and learning to love one another. And that's expansion, and that's really beautiful. So I seek always, in all parts of my life, I seek to be expansive rather than exclusive. I love to hear people of other religions talk about their faiths. I find much value in that, and I find myself in it, and I find God in it. I love to listen to devotional music that comes from other faiths. This all expands my relationship with God. It nourishes and deepens my relationship with God. Knowing who I am and knowing what I am called to do and what I believe and what I have dedicated myself to doesn't mean that I need to reject or exclude people who know something different, who are on a different path, who see God differently. So I've started talking about religion here and spirituality because that's just what I do. That's where my obsession is. But I think this is really important in culture at large. So even if you are an atheist or you don't have any sort of religious or spiritual practice, just in culture, just in community, in trying to figure out who we are as people and where we want to go forward and how we're going to live on this planet, I really think this is the thing that is before us right now. This is the thing that is before us right now, is to stop condemning other people, to stop thinking there's a right way and a wrong way, and I gotta lash out at the wrong people and make them be right. That doesn't mean that I don't think there's right and wrong. Of course there's right and wrong. And there are things that we do need to call out. There are things that we shouldn't sit silently by and allow those things to be said or those things to go on. There are things that are so wrong that when we are silent in the face of those things, we are contributing to that energy. So that's not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is an attitude of openness and acceptance and understanding that we are not all the same and that we all have different experiences and different beliefs and different ways of knowing the truth. And there's nothing wrong with being kind and being compassionate and being open to whomever and whatever we encounter during our day. I believe that one of the reasons the United States is in the situation that we are in now and going through what we're going through now is because of our blindness to this, that we have, as a collective, chosen fear. We've chosen to fear the other. We've chosen to fear those who are unlike us, who believe differently than us. We've chosen to believe stories that are fear-based and completely fictional stories about other people and as other people relate to our own safety. We've walked in fear for so long, and we've made reactive decisions about one another. And here we are. And I think the way to get out of this situation, to heal this situation, and to move into a place that will sustain life and that will allow us to grow is to become open, to put those defenses down, to open the heart to one another, to really start to listen to one another. I don't have to believe the same thing that you believe, but I have to let you believe it. I'm not sure it's really possible for most of us to be non-judging. Our judgment is something that serves us. We judge situations all the time. We use our gut feelings, we use our intuition. If I encounter a situation, I'm checking in with myself. How does this feel to me? Does this feel safe or not? Does this person feel trustworthy or not? That's something that we're all doing all the time and probably should do all the time. So when we talk about non-judgment, I'm not talking about ignoring your gut feelings or ignoring your intuition. I'm certainly not talking about that. But I do want to go through my life. I want to approach my day assuming goodwill. I don't want to assume ill will. I don't want to assume fear, ever. I want to go through my life knowing that we are all children of God, that we are all children of light, that we are all beloved, and that most of the people on this planet want what is good for one another. Most of us want what is good for one another. Most of us do. And I want to approach my life like that. I want to approach my life knowing that I might be wrong about some things and other people might be right about some things. It's not always easy. It's not always easy for me. I can get very dogmatic about knowing what's right. So I realize that this is not true for everyone and that some people feel exactly the opposite way. But for me, I find it extraordinarily comforting that there are infinite pathways to God, that there are many different religions and spiritual paths and things that people do to connect to the divine within. There are many different ways to meditate. There are many different ways to pray. There are different theologies and histories. To me, that makes me feel happy. It makes me feel safe and loved that God expresses God's self in so many different ways, with so many different faces, and that God is always God. That we are all talking about the same God, the same source, and we are all talking about divine love, and we are all talking about something that we can't really talk about. We can't really define God. We can't really put a shape or a language around God. All of our attempts to do so are just an approximation because we're talking about something that is so deeply beautiful and so deeply mysterious and that is so essential to who we are and why we are here. It's mystical and enormous, and it can't be contained. It can't be put in a book or a collection of books. It cannot be put into doctrine. It can't be contained because it's God. That's beautiful to me. So I don't feel any fear about hearing what other people believe or listening to devotional music from another path, or the only time I feel fear around someone else's belief system is when it's hostile. Fundamentalism in any form, from any religion, is frightening to me. When it becomes angry, when it becomes righteous, then that frightens me. But I feel that when people are truly talking about God, when they're truly feeling the God within themselves, when they are truly connected to the divine, it's always love and comfort and peace and joy. And my own personal faith and devotion is only deepened by sharing the world with people who believe differently than I do. And I'd like to take that out of the church, out of my religious practice and into the rest of my life, and into going to the grocery and driving down the road, listening to the radio, and the person I meet on the corner. So I'm aware within myself that there are things that I believe, that I affirm, that I practice within Christianity, that other non-Christian people in my life don't understand or find off-putting. And there are things that I believe and practice and do in my spiritual life that some of my Christian friends might find off-putting or not understand. Even within me, even within my heart, there are multitudes, there are many pathways to God. I also think that every single human is this way, that we are all layers and layers and layers, and we are layers of doubt and faith walk hand in hand. And sometimes our faith changes, sometimes what we believe changes in an instant because of an event, and sometimes it changes slowly over time, and then there are things that don't change. What I'm tired of is combat. I'm tired of feeling a combative energy in my heart. I'm tired of feeling defensive, and I'm tired of seeing it in my environment. I'm tired of listening to people fight. I hope that we as a collective can move toward peace and toward compassion and understanding of one another, and even if we don't understand one another, acceptance of one another. And the only way that I can think of that we can do that is to start with our own selves, and to start here and look at and examine, where is the hardness in my heart? Where is the hostility in my heart? Where is the fear in my heart? And where can I put that down? Where can I let that go? How can I become what I wish to see? How can I live what I want to live? How can I be for other people what I want other people to be? Which is really that love thy neighbor thing, right? Like, do unto others. Do unto others starts with yourself. It starts, what am I doing here? What am I doing to me? What am I thinking? What am I taking in? What am I ingesting? What is the state of my heart? Because that's the state I'm bringing into the room. That's what I'm bringing into every relationship. I'm going to take care of this, and that helps me take care of this. So maybe if we each did that, if we each were conscious about where's my heart, and what am I believing, and what am I open to, and what am I closed to, where can I be a little less judging and a little more compassionate? Where can I open and listen to someone else today? Maybe little by little, that's how we can change the environment we're living in and change the world. Maybe. So that's what I'm thinking about today. Thank you for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate those of you who watch these videos, who comment, who watch on the website and comment. You mean the world to me. Thank you. I love you.